I can give you a little bit of information about the background of St. Lucia. When we look at St. Lucia, who inhabited the area, about 200 to 400, the native Arawak people live there. I'm going to show you some archaeological things that we came across on our trip to Pigeon Island. 800 AD, the Caribs from the South America came and took over the island. And then Columbus sighted St. Lucia for the first time in around 1499, 1502, somewhere around that time frame. And then it was a battle between France and England. The island was switched over. I think it was 14 different times between the English and the French. So some of the names that will come across are French names that were given to some of the towns by the French, but then later was taken over by the English. So that was France took it over originally in 1651, and in the 17th and 18th century, over 150 years, there was battles between English and France. So eventually, in 1814, the English settled the final time after the Napoleonic War. At this particular time, the slaves were brought into, while the slaves were in this area, working on the plantations. There was sugar canes that were put on the island. It was a sugar-based economy, but in 1834, slavery was abolished. 1924, St. Lucia was self-governed. In 1958 to 1962 as a part of the West Indies Federation. So when you hear about the West Indies, that was the time frame it was. In 1967, similar to Canada, it was an associated state, and they received full independence in 1979. So they're a sovereign nation. They are very close to our system. They have a prime minister. Their currency is, I'll get into the currency a little bit, but it reminds me of Canadian currency. So when the slavery was abolished, their sugar economy converted into bananas, and now their economy is also tourist-based. The culture is African, French, British, and Creole influenced. So there's quite a mixture of people there. Okay, we're going to get started. This is flying over the Atlantic Ocean on our way to St. Lucia. How did we select St. Lucia? Well, my husband we've done a little bit of traveling, and we've gone to Mexico, we've been to Cuba, we've been to the US, and we didn't want to definitely go into the US at this particular time. And we've been to a few other countries. So my husband said to me, I want to go to an island somewhere that is safe and somewhere we haven't been to. So in my research, I know we can't fly directly from Regina. I prefer going from Calgary, but there's not really any good flights for Western Canadians to go into this part of the Caribbean. So we had to fly through Toronto. We also wanted to fly WestJet, and so another sigh, because our flight went from an evening flight from Regina to Calgary, and Calgary we got there later in the evening. A midnight flight from Calgary to Toronto, arrived there at 6:30 in the morning, and then leaving at 8 8:30 in the morning to go from Toronto to St. Lucia. So it was kind of a grueling day, and you guys can all relate from traveling to other parts of the world. We arrived into St. Lucia at 3 p.m., tired, hungry, and just wanting to sleep. So we arrived at the Nara Airport. It's the international airport on the south side of the island. So I'm sorry this doesn't come up any bigger, but you can see where St. Lucia is located. It is near the bottom part. It's called the Leeward Islands. There are 3 up from Venezuela. So you can see all the beautiful islands in the area. So here is our drive from the Nara Airport. We hired a driver, and he took us on the East Coast. He told us this was the fastest way. It took about a couple of hours. This way we went because traffic gets backed up. It's a small island. The highways get clogged up a lot. So this is the East Coast tour. And when we arrived to our destination, we were staying, we booked a booking.com apartment called the Mount View Apartments. And our host very graciously made a meal for us. It's right here. And so we were just so pleased that we didn't have to cook or just trying to, the first day of culture shock and being overtired. So we just basically hung out here. So I'm going to go back and talk to you about the currency. This is the Eastern Caribbean dollar. And the Eastern Caribbean dollar, you can see the coins are exactly the same as Canadian coins. And also the bills, and they have Queen Elizabeth on them. So yes, this is a Commonwealth country. How does that convert? Well, let me just share with you a little bit about the currency. See, I have that here. 1 Eastern Caribbean dollar is equivalent to 0.51 Canadian dollars. Eastern Caribbean dollars you cannot buy in Canada. You have to wait till you get down there. And I was very surprised that the Bank of Commerce down there would not exchange Canadian dollars into Eastern Caribbean dollars. I had to go to another bank. So I was kind of surprised about that. We did take US currency, which was accepted, but we always like to support the local economy. And we ended up doing that after a couple of days of figuring out which banks we could use. And some banks would only allow you to transfer so much Canadian dollars to their dollar. So we had to figure that out in a couple of days. Okay, so that was our deal. So we settled in, unpacked, all of our luggage arrived. We were happy campers. We did not have a car, so we had not really an idea how far of a walk we were going to do the next day, but that was going to be our next day's exploring the area. So the island is 27 miles long and 14 miles wide. So it's not really that big, but if you look at the mountains and the hills around there, it does take a long time, especially during traffic hours, and there's accidents and stuff like that happen. The population of the island is 174,800. So the next day, okay, this is leading into our area, Mount View Apartments. This is our place that we stayed. There were 2 suites in the bottom and 1 suite in the upper part. And from what you can see from the picture, there is quite a steep hill here. Beautiful view of the surrounding mountain area. So it's really quiet and peaceful, away from the hustle and bustle of the beaches. There, these cars are people that rented from other parts of the world. And here's a little bit of a forewarning of the steepness of the area. We were going to rent a car the second week. We stayed here for 15 days or 12 days. This is this is going up. And the beautiful gardens surrounding the area. There's lots of fruit trees in the area. Very rural part of the island. Okay, so this is a photograph of some of the areas that we are going to explore. If you look in the upper corner, there is Pigeon Island. There is Gross Inlet, pronounced Groselee. There is Redoux Beach. We also went over to, I don't have the map in front of me. We did go to the east side, on Bass, I think it's called. So we did kind of explore in the upper section of the island because there's a lot to do. So here's our walking down to Rodney Bay. It's 4.7 kilometers of a walk. This is a bus stop for us to get picked up. As you're walking along, you're looking at the beautiful trees with fruit on them. So I would often pick something and take it home and we share it after. And if you can see in the far, in the back, that is Rodney Bay. That's the beach and where the marina is. Walking. If you look on top of that mountain, there's a little hidden house hiding in behind there. Okay, look at the very top because I want to share with you how politics is run. If you see a red flag, and these flags are all over, they're on pretty much every telepost, and either they be red or yellow. And these are indicators who the people in this area voted for. So the red flag indicates St. Lucia's Labour Party, and the yellow flag represents the United Workers' Party. They only have two parties. The current Prime Minister is Philip J. Hero, and he was sworn in on December 5th of 2025. And he was part of the St. Lucia Labour Party. So that's kind of interesting to see all these flags still in the area. I don't know if they stay there, but very interesting to see them all over the place. So as we're walking along, we're still walking. We're getting closer to the marina. From here, you can see so many yachts and boats and catamarans and sailboats. It's just if you love being around the water and on boats, this is a place to be. So here we are on Redoux Beach, our first dip into the ocean, and just kind of exploring, walking up and down the beach a little bit. Beautiful sand. It's kind of a whitish sand. This is probably the whitest it is. And I'm going to just share kind of different parts of the beach. This is Pigeon Island. And this is Spinnaker's. Spinnaker's is a beach bar that we visited a couple of times. It's owned by folks that are originally from the UK. What we didn't realize before we went to St. Lucia was there are a lot of English speaking and people from Britain here. I think we ran to more British than Canadians. And there was we ran into Americans, but mostly British people. So here's Spinnaker's, relaxing, having our lunch. This is Cajun shrimp. Will had shrimp on kebabs, but one of their sides was macaroni and cheese. So he was very good. He loves macaroni and cheese. Okay, so that was our first day walking around, getting familiar with the area and just getting a lay of the land. Day two, or the next day, we booked a spa day pass at the Bay Gardens Beach Resort. This isn't one of the high-end beach resorts, but it was a nice place to sit on the beach, have all-inclusive drinks, lunch, supper, and just hang out. So this is what we did for the next day. This was January 1st. Beautiful, beautiful area. For those that have families, well, even the big or the young at heart, they have this apparatus that you could go on and jump around and play. We just, oh, this is a movie on the beach. You can hear the ocean coming around. So this is the Bay Gardens. And right in front, we got our lounge chairs for the day. And here's me with my first Piton beer. This is a lager beer, which was really tasty. Definitely reminded me of Canadian beer. The Pitons are the iconic landmarks of St. Lucia. There's two volcano plugs. They're on their national flag and they are all over with their beer. So we'll see a couple of those throughout the presentation. Will, he doesn't drink. So we did find a non-alcoholic beer called Heineken Zero. It's about half the size of a normal beer and double the price. So he was not very happy about that, but at least he had an option. The sun going down, we got to watch the sun going down here. We were entertained. There was an artist that was carving in calabashes in front of us. So we watched the coming and going of people buying on the beach. Beautiful, beautiful day. Okay, next day we went on a trip on our own. We went to the Pigeon Island National Landmark. Now, what is Pigeon Island? It is, it started out as a pirate hideout in the 16th century. The fighting between the English and the French, this was a naval base that started in the 1778 after the Battle of Pigeon Island. So the British built, this is called Fort Rodney. So all the trees were cut down in order to spy on the French who were on the island across the bay at Martinique. So we'll see that vantage point when we go up Signal Hill, which was 330 feet high on a hill. In 1808, they built two barracks, a kitchen, the commander's office quarters, and the officer's mess. In 1780, they built a lime kiln, which in 1920, they modified into a whaler oiler. They kept whale oil. So in 1909, they had a whaler station here. In 1940, the area was used by the US, who built a naval station at Redoux Beach, and they also used other parts of the island as a communication station. Interestingly, the airport that we landed in was also built because of World War II. That was known as Bean Army Airfield in 1941. The Pigeon Island was artificially formed to the mainland in 1972. In 1979, it was named a national park. And later in 1992, it was, or pardon me, in 1979, it was a national park, and 92, a national landmark. So this is a beautiful place. They have two beaches that if we had more time, I would have just spent all day at that beach because it's so beautiful and quiet. There's hardly anybody here. So you can see reference to the barracks. And there's beach number 2. All kinds of ruins along this island, so lots of surprises, lots of boats and ships and catamarans going by. So just kind of exploring this is an all-day kind of thing to explore. So as you go up Signal Hill, you can start to see the area around. So this is the area that was artificially built. You can see the white sandy beaches. There's another beach outside of the Pigeon Island place. You have to pay to go into this area. I think it was about $10, so it's not that expensive. It looks, Will being retired from the military, he was really interested in looking at this area because he figured that's where the ammunition was stored in this area. So he's jumping in there and looking around. Cannons all over the place with the mark of the British royalty here. And off in the distance, this is where imagine the British soldiers looking across at Martinique to see what's going on over there. And interestingly, when we were up here, we met 2 couples that were from Martinique that had come over for the day on one of those fancy sailboats. So they were really nice. And they took pictures for us. Okay, so this is some of the other areas. More cannons. And this is the little museum that they have. It was nice and air conditioned because it was really hot out. So these are artifacts of the first natives to the area. Here's a maquette of Pigeon Island and just some of the stories here. Could do a lot of research. Okay, so that was our day at Pigeon Island. So after that, we went back to our place and just relaxed for the evening because the next day was going to be a full day excursion on a catamaran down to Soufrière. We booked Sea Spray Tours, and it was our second booking. The first one, they called us and said, would you come the next day? Because we have over 100 people on the day that you booked. It's like, yeah, I think we want to go on a cruise that's less people. So this was all day. We got to see the sunset. It included our meal and all the drinks that you wanted. So people got kind of crazy towards the end of the night, but Wilf and I were pretty manageable. Some of the highlights from this tour was the luxurious hotels that you see from the water. The boats, as you're going by, you see all these beautiful boats. And there's also the cruise ships from all over the place. And listening to music and just chilling. It's our kind of day. So this is one of the real high-end hotels. And another one, they're all perched around the bottom of the cliffs. And the highlight of going to Soufrière is we finally get to see the pitons for the first time. So part of our tour was seeing the pitons, landing in Soufrière, going to the mud bath at Sulphur Springs. And here it is. There's 3 different pools, and it's black, gray, hot mineral water from the hot springs. Our guide took lots of pictures of everybody. She was fantastic and did all kinds of poses of us. This is just one. And you can see it's a very popular tourist attraction. My husband was a little disappointed because they kind of herded us out there really quickly. If we would have went on our own, we could have spent more time, but we felt like we were a little bit rushed. So that was our first stop. Then we went to a place called Turrell Waterfalls and washed off. Will didn't want to go in, but I sure did. It was really refreshing. He was just sitting there watching me. And then we had lunch at it was called the Morel Colabal Estate. So it was a buffet, and then they had grounds where there was an old estate. This is the replicas of the Carib. And they had a donkey, poor little guy, he was there all by himself. He was crushing sugar cane. Back on the catamaran, and we're off to look at a place called Marigot Bay. And Marigot Bay is known, well, I won't go into the details, well, because we end up going back here. We heard it was such a lovely place that we're gonna come here on our own. So look at the yachts in Marigot Bay. This is the yachts. And just amazing, the houses, the homes, the high-end hotels that are up in the hills. So I'm showing a few pictures of the fruit that we've seen just walking along the road from our apartment. So about this particular time, I realized that the shoes I was wearing, I was walking like 4.7 kilometers a day for about 3 days. I got blisters on the bottom of my feet, believe it or not. So I'm usually one to walk around everywhere, and I had to have a couple of days where I couldn't do that because those blisters were so bad. So it was kind of interesting. So they had all kind of shandy drinks and drinks that were made from the Piton beer, which I found very refreshing. We stopped at this homemade pizza place. This is another one of the treats that our host made for us. Oftentimes they would come up to our place and provide us with a snack every couple of days. So this was a spice cake and a banana leaf. Another thing that they gave us was fish cakes. I could eat a whole portion of those. They were so good. Here's some calabashes. And these, there's about 6 different flavors of this most refreshing drink called the Anks. I don't know, I can't say it. Anks. Okay, so there was about 6 different flavors of these, and on ice they were amazing. I don't think they had any alcohol. No, they were just like refreshing drinks. That was my favorite. St. Lucia is known for the bananas. There is so many different types of bananas. It's one of their biggest import or exports. And as a tourist, they're flogging the banana ketchup, banana barbecue sauces. And this is a place that actually had them that you could use. So I thought that was interesting to share. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the transportation on the island. There is local buses that this is an incident where one of the goals is let's try and get on the local buses. So we were always able to flag down someone. But there were bus stops, and sometimes they would pass us and we couldn't figure out what we were doing wrong. So when we got on this bus, the lady with the bun in the front, she had a little baby, and she got off at the same place as us, and she said she was from Calgary. So that was pretty cool to run into someone from Calgary. And we ended up chatting with her about the buses, and she said, that buses from your place, are easy to get on, but they don't have buses going up the hill. So it ended up costing us about $40 each time we wanted to get a bus from, downtown to our place. So, we were happy that in a week or so, we were gonna, rent a car for a little while, so. But it's really cool to kind of see how the locals travel. It's like $2, to take the, local buses. Taxis, were another form of, transportation. You could hire, car hire, rentals, and then, along the water, boat rentals. You can definitely flag down people. So here's our day on the public transportation. And it wasn't going the way we wanted, so we were being tourists and just going up the mountain and seeing some of the sights. Very, very rural. And green, green, green. So all of the buildings are made with these cement blocks. Hurricane season and just the tropical storm conditions make it that way. So here's another waiting for the bus. And here we are. This is a place that we visited during the day. This is Groseley Inlet. During the day, there's no action going on here. Beautiful, mosaic work. My friend Joanne would appreciate that. This is, in the area, the church. And then finally at night, let me share with you Groseley, at night. On Friday night, the street shuts down from car traffic and people party and dance and eat barbecue all night. This is a must-see in, St. Lucia. But it wasn't really Wilf and my thing. It was interesting to see. The speakers were mounted and very loud. At about 10 p.m., the streets were blocked with people, so you couldn't get around, and that's kind of what happened. It's hard to, you have to almost hold on to hands so you don't lose the other person. But it was crazy. All kinds of people there. That's what it looks like when it's in full swing. And people from all over the world come here. Okay, the next day, we we went on a water taxi from Groseley Inlet, and we went to Rideau Beach. So we got to see some of the beautiful houses and the yachts. Some of them I was able to Google and see who owned them, so that was kind of cool. The Constant, multi-millionaire, owns that and travels around the Caribbeans with his family. So we went to the edge of, we went past the place we were at for the day pass. And we went to the end, and there is Mama's Fish Hut. They're a local family that own and operate it. We weren't really hungry for fish at that time, but I went there a couple of times to get the fresh fruit juices, all kinds. I just love picking up 2 or 3 containers, and they recycle the bottles here. They were very delicious. And you have a beautiful view of the whole beach. Okay, so the next day we rented a car for a week. And I've done a little bit of that in Wales, and my aunt can attest to that. Will decided that he was going to try it, so I didn't get to go behind the wheel very much on this trip. But this is our cute little chimney, and it had a high undercarriage, which was very important because of the steep hill to our place. And plus there's lots of really deep gutters that you could ruin your wheel train. So the first thing he had to get used to was driving on the other side of the road and the steering wheel on the other side of the road. So we were granny driving for a little bit until he got used to it. And the roundabouts were another thing that we had to get used to. So one of the first places we drove around, we didn't go too far the first day because we were a little bit concerned about trying to figure out feeling comfort. So we went to this place called Snuggler's Cove. And Snuggler's Cove, there's a beach or a restaurant on the shore called Naked Fisherman, and also a hotel called the Cape Masson Hotel that was just up the hill. So we spent a little bit of time there exploring the beach. It's a very small, quiet beach, but in observing, it's like, it looks like there is snorkelers around here. So we ended up coming back here for another day. It was just so beautiful. There's Pigeon Island, very close by. Will did go snorkeling. He said there's lots of fish in the right-hand side. And there's the Cape Masson. I was looking at getting a day pass here. It was about 150 US, but we just decided to hang out on the beach. There's the Naked Fisherman. We did try to get a sunset meal here, but you had to book so far in advance. They didn't have any room for us. Lots of pictures there, just so beautiful. Some of the beautiful artwork in the area. And then we went to the east part of the island to an area called Cas-en-Basse Beach. And there was absolutely nobody there. Nobody patronizes the east part. It's a little bit more wild. There's some sea gas in that area, but they do maintain it. And I think Sandals Resorts, they have access to the far side of the beach because there was a DJ that was playing music and there's nobody there yet. So we just kind of walked around. There was a little restaurant that we went and had a meal at and just really enjoyed the quiet peacefulness of the area. I think they are trying to build this area up. There's complexes that they're trying to build, but not yet. Okay, that was our day trip that day. The next day we were going to be brave and we were going to go through the capital city of Castries and then on to Marigot Bay. So Castries to Marigot Bay. The biggest challenge was getting through Castries because this is a fishing port. I'm not a fishing port. It's you can see the cruise ship. It's a cruise ship port, and they have, I think the most they have is about 4 cruise ships coming in at the same time, and the main highway is clogged all the way through. So we were trying to get through that darn Google. Google directed us right into the fire, so it took us several hours just to get through Castries. It was just so hard to get through there. So didn't want to do it. But once we got through Castries, there was a beautiful lookout with, you can see there was 2 cruise ships that day. I don't think they can accommodate 4, so sometimes they go down to Sulfrey, and they have actually a really deep port down in that area. Sometimes you see the smaller cruise ships there, but for now, I think there's 2 of them. So on we go. One of the hardest parts for Wilf as a driver is when you're driving around these mountain passes. It's a narrow road and you have people coming head on. It's like single lane highway, and then you have the crazy motorcyclists who are driving down the center of the road. So we were he was pretty exhausted by this trip. There was certain points where he almost felt like he hit. He was gonna get the car hit. We were gonna go, but we made it through, and we are in Margot Bay. It's a hard to find parking there, but we ended up going into this area called the JJ Mangrove Dockside. We found a parking spot, and it's right on the edge, like beautiful, beautiful view of all the luxury boats and um this catamaran just all of a sudden pulled up and this couple came off of there. It's like, wow, this is cool. So we ended up taking a water taxi to Doodiddles, which is at Margot Beach Club. Doodiddles is where Dr. Doolittle was filmed in 1967. So I'll show you some of the pictures. So this is a popular spot. Here's a couple of drinks that we had along the way at the pub. And here is some memorabilia from Dr. Doolittle, who the actor was Rex Harrison. You can see they have memorabilia along the sides of the walls showing some of the film. So if you look on the other side of Margot Bay, you can see the homes. You can see how clear it is, the dock. And so we spent a few hours there. And I wanted to go to this place called the Agritourism Experience. When we got there, they were closing, but they very graciously opened it up for us. And it was a family-run plantation. There was the daughter and the son gave us a tour of the plantation. So here we are going down the road. Of course, there's always going to be samples of things to try and things to buy. They deep fried bananas that we tried, and ice cream with liqueurs over. And here they are showing us the plantation and explaining when they harvest the bananas. There are there's between 6 to 10 different types of bananas. They export their bananas, and in talking with the son, he was talking about farming, being a farmer on the island. They don't get any kind of insurance. If a hurricane hits, they can't buy insurance. So their failures are 100%. They don't get nothing for anything that happens in that area. So that's kind of sad. Lots of coconuts that we've seen, lots of coconut trucks along the side of the road. So he chopped a coconut. I think there's different colors of coconuts too. And we sampled some coconut milk or water. So here we are waiting because it was raining, and he was kind of explaining how tough it was for farmers living in St. Lucia. He introduced us to some fruits that I've never seen before. Okay, so the next day we went on a sunset cruise with Sea Spray from Rodney Bay. So here we are waiting at the marina. I just seen some lovely artwork. This is beautiful here as we're waiting. And here we are getting on the boat. 3 champagne all night. Oh my goodness. This was a little bit crazy, but beautiful. We went up past Pigeon Island going north this time, and running into other people on cruises, waiting for sunset to happen. Oh, who's that driving the boat? Will. He asked asked to drive it, and they let him. So here we are, a few sunset pictures. Oh, and this is the steel drum. Too bad you guys can't hear this. Beautiful. Okay, so from here, we after the sunset cruise, the next day we returned our car and hired a driver, which we'll nickname Formula One, to take us to Sulphur. And along the way, he shared some tourist attractions that we wanted to see. He showed us the bypass to get out of Castries without even going around the ship. So that was one thing that we learned from going on a hired car. We stopped in at the Castries market. Castries has been the capital of St. Lucia since 1650. It's a port city with 2,000 urban people and 70,000 in the district. The Castries market is the largest fresh market for produce on the island. And Saturday is the huge market because all the farmers around the island come here. This market's been running since 1891. Unfortunately, we didn't go on a Saturday, but we just did a really quick stop in here. This is the Derek Walcott Square, and he was known for the Nobel Prize in Literature. So there's a statue of him here. And then this is St. Arthur Lewis, and he was given a Nobel Prize for economics. So that's a pretty high odds for having two distinguished fellows that got Nobel Prizes on a small island. Okay, as we're going along, we're going to come across the Cathedral of the Immaculate. The first part of the cathedral was built in 1767, and the second one was started in 1807 and finished in 1891. It's the largest cathedral in the Caribbean. Now, we've seen these two banners in the church and wondered what that had to do with. So when I got back, I researched it, and it's a sad thing that happened. In 2000, at the New Year's Eve Mass, two men with machetes came in and set worshippers on fire and killed the father and sister, which are indicated on these banners. So that's kind of a really, really sad situation there. So we're just now leaving Castries and heading towards Sulphur, stopping at a few little marketplaces, meeting. This is a boa constrictor. There are no other snakes on the island. This fellow is the only. He was wanting some money to show us his snake. We had to stop at a chocolate place. This is a St. Lucia cacao chocolate artisan store. They're a small micro batch chocolate store where they make their own chocolates. They have chocolate drinks and other specialty items made out of cacao. So I bought a few chocolate bars and I ate these ones for myself. I love chocolate. So here's Sulphur from the highway. You can see that it's a windy road to get in. Before we went into Sulphur, which was the original capital of St. Lucia, and it was first colonized by the French in 1746. Sulphur translates to sulfur, and in behind the mountain it is where the sulfur springs is, and you can smell it from time to time. Here's Formula One showing us around, and a beautiful view of the pitons. Very ingenious for Formula One to show us how to take a photo of the pitons. The first stop was the Tet Hall Nature Walk. This was a 45-minute round trip walk up, not on the pitons, but on the outside of them to get a really good view. So we're walking along, beautiful views. There's lots of fruit trees around. And we're going to the stairway to heaven. And guess who's along the way? The goat herders with their goats. So we're going up the steps. There's 116 steps. And interesting to watch the goats along the way. Okay, if you can see that sign, it has something to do with Piton beer. And there was someone that was selling Piton beer up there. Okay, so this is the area that we're spending our last 3 days in. I would have probably stayed here a little bit longer because there's more natural things to do here, things to do with nature, but we did make the most of our time here. The population of Sulphry is 7,935, so a really quaint village that was really easy to navigate, and you felt really comfortable. People were very, very friendly. It's a hub for nature-themed tourism. There was a diamond botanical garden, a mud bath was here, lots of hiking, more than one mineral bath. The beaches in the area were fantastic, waterfalls, and of course, between the pitons. This is where some of the most expensive hotels are. Jade Mountain Resort is $3,500 per night. Sugar Beach Resort is $2,300 per night. A place that we got a day pass at, the Ladura, was $1,700 per night. That's in Canadian dollars. So it's like, yikes. That's not what we want. But we got to see the area. This is the Diamond Botanical Garden. We went and had lunch here before we went to our Airbnb. So this is what Sulphry looks like. This is our Airbnb. We're on the second level. This is, it was a 2-bedroom, so we were hoping my friend Joanna Clark would come with us. But it was nice to have an extra bedroom and beautiful, beautiful accommodations. Lots of interesting sculptures on the building, and right across the street was a playground. This is a playground, and it was about maybe a 10 or 15-minute walk down to the beach. Interestingly, there was a track and field that was really close, and lots of schools. So our first night in Sulphry. The next day we had a day pass for the Ladura resort. So we were taking advantage, just relaxing, because we're getting close to having to fly home. And we all know how stressful flying is these days, so we wanted a little bit of peace and quiet. So we're driving up. We were met at the entrance in these little buggies. They drove us up to the day spa, past the $1,700 a night rooms. And all these rooms are open, and they have infinity pools in each of the rooms. And wow, we didn't get to see them. I really wanted to walk around, but they won't allow us to do that with the day pass. I took a picture of one of the places. Leave is the day spa that we went to, and beautiful surroundings. You were given all sorts of paraphernalia to make yourself comfortable: bathrobes, slippers. I got a face cream pack, beautiful bathrooms, beautiful decor. Everything is handcrafted by artisans. This is a pool we got to spend all of our day at. whenever we get day passes for spas, we really make sure we get our money's worth. We spend the day. So interestingly, they provided dried nuts and drinks, and you could make your own teas with the herbs they had in these little containers. So it was really nice and beautiful surroundings. So this is Laduna is a former cacao plantation, and it's right on the rim of the top of the mountain. And you'll see a better look when we go for supper this evening. They had all kinds of smoothie drinks that you could order. Those you have to pay for, of course, but beautiful sculptures, beautiful mosaics, and an upper level. This was we've got to go to the tree house. It's made of 300-year-old mango tree. And in the tree house, there is we call it the Fred Flintstone gym. Everything was handmade. Beautiful handcrafting and games. This is for the guests, so we weren't allowed to really be here. We got to know the attendance, so we got to go. Okay, here we are at the end of the day. We've cleaned up and we're getting ready for our dinner reservation to the place. It was called Dasheen. Beautiful, beautiful. When we got there, we didn't know where we were going to sit. This is, we were having a drink first before we were seated for dinner. We were the first reservation of the night. And when we got to our seat, I'll show you. If you look at the Piton, right on the left-hand side is Sugar Beach, which is one of the most popular beaches on the island. We got the front row, the $1 million view, which was fantastic. At night, we were having drinks and supper, and amazing, amazing view. Will had, what did he have? I think he had a steak, and I had a pepper steak, and he had pepper steak, and I had a seafood pastry dish, and they had all these handcrafted drinks. I had to have one or two of them. So the next day we ended up hiring a boat, and we had, our checklist. We have to go to Sugar Beach. We got to see what's happening there. Beautiful cruise ships. Again, they were parked out in the harbor. I think that was Ritz-Carlton ship. Didn't know they had such a thing. Our driver's taking us to Sugar Beach. This is Sugar Beach. And when we got there, it's like, oh my goodness, this is too busy. There's too many people here. We're used to quiet. So we went and had a drink at the bar and walked along the beach a little bit. They wouldn't allow you to walk in certain parts, but it is public ground. So you're allowed, but you feel a little bit uncomfortable. So on the other side is a snorkeling area. A lot of people were in that area, so we went and looked at that for a bit. We didn't bring our gear, but we decided, oh, let's see if we can find another place. So we called up our boat hire, and off we go again. We go to the other side of Sulphur to another place called Anse-Chastanet. Doesn't that sound beautiful? Anse-Chastanet and Anse-Mammon is the two places that we found that were the most beautiful, most peaceful places. And we even stayed around here. We should have stayed here for a whole day, but we went and had lunch at the Jungle Grill. That's where we ran across this banana ketchup and had a really good meal. Interestingly, there's cactus on the top of this rock. and beautiful little areas where nobody is, just very peaceful. It was black sand too. Then we walked along to the other area near the Jade Mountain Resort, which again, that resort, I think, was way out of our league. That was the highest, 3,500. They had a little beach area, and they have a scuba diving shop where you can learn how to scuba dive. We went into the art gallery there and just kind of looked around. And then we decided, well, we're going to walk back to Sulphry. It's not going to be that bad. So we're walking along and walking along. Beautiful views. It's hot, you're sweating. And one of our fellow public transportation guys comes in his van. He says, you guys need a ride? Oh, yes. So we were very happy that he brought us into town. He didn't even charge us. These are wonderful people. They would really, really take the shirts off their back for you. So I found when we got back into town, we were walking around and I found some really interesting signage. What do you think the teachers would say if they put signs like this in the schools? They all wore school uniforms. You'll see some examples of this is their school, a lot of outdoor space. Here's some of their uniforms. And interesting story to kind of conclude our St. Lucia trip. I had some extra Halloween candy that I left at home, and I thought to myself that I didn't know what to do with it. It was Pop Rocks. I had these Pop Rocks, and I thought, I wonder, should I take these to St. Lucia? Would they appreciate them in St. Lucia? So I packed them in my bag. I had some toys and stuff. And it was the last day before we were coming home. And I said to Wolf, we need to get rid of these things. Let's just go drop. He said, let's go to the school and just drop them off. So we talked to the lady at this candy counter and said, we're not crazy people. We would just like to give some things from Canada to these kids. So Wilf is handing out these Pop Rocks or just little small packages to the kids. And then we go walk into town and we come back. And the lady's still at her candy booth. And she runs up to us and she goes, where did you get those Pop Rocks? And we kind of explained, well, they're part of a Halloween candy pack. I don't know, we just got them at the drugstore. She goes, the kids try them and they absolutely love them. We don't have them here. So where can I get some? So that was kind of interesting that, some of the things that we have here and don't really, we take it for granted that, and people in other parts of the world appreciate that. So anyways, that was kind of an interesting story. So the last couple of pictures are just in the neighborhood. I call this the Wishbone House. It was close to where we were staying, so it was an easy landmark in case we got lost. And kind of just in the area of Sulphry where we're staying. Oh, here's another interesting sign on the door. This is on, I think there's a daycare here. And even the daycare kids are wearing little uniforms. It's really cute to see. Everybody's wearing the same. Okay, so there's a sign there. Here we go. Just the last bit. Interesting how they incorporate and recycle cars into garden spaces or whatever. Goats, of course. I think this was an old Coca-Cola factory or sugar plantation house, we're not sure, but just beautiful area. This is, they have an Olympic athlete who's a runner and they have something to pay honor. Here's another beautiful cruise ship that came to port. Our last couple of moments here, that was our breakfast. I had the traditional salt fish breakfast. This statue is commemorating the freedom of the slaves. This is in the square in Soulfree. This church was built in 1957. Why so new? Well, hurricanes have devastated this community. It's not protected like Marigot Bay, where it's called Marigot Bay is known as Hurricane Hole. A lot of the ships move in there when there's a hurricane coming to protect them, but not Soulfree. Here's the church here. The architecture represents the ribs of a ship. And here is the last slide. Make sure you read that. And thank you very much. I went a little bit longer. Thank you very much for joining me on my husband's trip to St. Lucia. Any questions?